Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today. Just wanted to bring an update to my Palpatine list, the Set 6 Palpatine. It's been putting up some pretty good results lately, and I wanted to make a change to my list and update it a little bit, so I figured I'd come in here today and do an update. First off, let me introduce myself. My name is Stone Rain Productions, but please feel free to call me SRP if you'd like. I've been making content for a little over 2 months roughly at this point, and also would like to ask if you could like and subscribe. Definitely helps out quite a bit, so if you can, please help out. Really helps me quite a bit. So I made a couple changes to the Set 6 Palpatine list that I had, and in that video, if you happen to watch it, you'll notice that I recommended that we switch the base to Data Vault. So I figured I'd go in and do that, and that's what we did. So let's take a look here. We'll start with our leader as we always do. Chancellor Palpatine from Set 6. This was in the special decks, I guess you'd call them the special decks. But anyway, he's a Vigilance Villainy leader. It's a 7 deploy, so it's kind of a steep cost, and that's one of the big strikes against him, but we're going to try him out. He's got an action where you can pay 1 and exhaust him and search the top 5 cards of your deck for a card with plot, reveal it, and draw it. And then you put the rest of the cards on the bottom of your deck in random order. Chancellor Palpatine flips on 7 resources and is a 6/8. And when he deploys, I believe that you get the first 7 points discounted for plot cards. So you can do up to 10 total cost of plot cards when you deploy Palpatine. So we really want to make this a primarily focused plot deck. And there's a couple that we focused on primarily. Now we're going to pair that up with Data Vault. As I said in the other video, since he's digging 5 deep, we don't really have to have like a massive commitment to plot. Just a couple of key really good cards with this. This kind of gets over some of the negative effect of Data Vault by having this leader, because we're going to constantly be looking at the top card of our deck. Sometimes we'll play off curve a little bit with him as well. And let's go over the cards. To start, we do have 2 copies of Corrupt Politician. This is a 1-cost 2/2 Sentinel that if we have more units than our opponents, this gains Sentinel. And this can frequently have Sentinel in this deck, especially when we deploy our Palpatine leader. And then we have our plot Palpatine, which is going to pretty much always be free when we deploy our Palpatine. So it's a good 1 cost. It's a good way to also play off curve. We'll do a 1-drop activate Palpatine. On turn 2, we can do a 2-drop activate Palpatine, so on and so forth. But it's a good card. It's a good Sentinel. And we've got a little bit more Sentinels coming up here later. I've got 2 copies of Timely Intervention. Most people know this, but it's a 1-cost event and cutting, and it gives a unit ambush that we play from our hand. So we pay the 1 for this, then we get to play our next unit immediately after, and it gains ambush. Now the nice part about this card is that you can smuggle this from your resource row for 2 and cunning, so just costs 1 additional resource to play this. So you play a unit from your hand, you give it ambush for this phase, and that's how that works. Pretty great card, and there's a couple of cards that work fantastically with it. You'll notice a lot of the costs in this are very low. All the way down here, we've got mostly 3s. This is all 1s and 2s. And we just start to hit 4s in the 3rd row. So just kind of shows you how low to the ground we are. We've got 3 copies of Imperial Dark Trooper. It's just a good card. I was considering running Invisible Hand in here with some of the droids, but I decided against it in here. That's certainly something that you could consider if you would like to, because it's an effective ship, and it also gets droids out of your deck, so it helps thin your deck, which kind of also gets rid of the downside of the Palpatine leader. But anyway, The reason why I didn't do that is because I didn't want to put more droids in here. Since we're already focusing on plot, I didn't want to have it so we're putting half of these and half of these, and there's also no ramp in this deck, so we're trying to lean on our Sentinels for a little while at the start of the game to kind of overcome that. To carry on, we've got 3 copies of Jar Jar. It's a 2-cost 2/1. When played, you may give another friendly unit +2/+2 for this phase, and it has plot. We've also got 3 copies of Lobot, which I think is fantastic in this deck. It is a 0/4 Sentinel with grit. Very handy. If it gets hit, we can now deal some offensive damage with him. I did have more copies of Major Partagaz in here, but I decided to bring it down to 1. It's a nice leader, it's a nice unit, but it's very seldomly effective. I figured 1's probably okay to keep in there, and that's probably about as many as I'd want to put in at the moment. 3 copies of Chancellor Palpatine, because this card is just really great, and Villainy Command decks. 3 costs 2/2 with plot. When played, if you control a leader unit, create 2 spy tokens and give those units Sentinel for this phase. So it's kind of interesting wording on here. When played, if you control a leader unit, create 2 spy tokens and give those Sentinel. So the when played is conditional on if we have our leader in play. So if we plot it out, we're going to always have that because it deploys when we deploy our leader. Cobb Vanth, I have 2 copies in here for now. This used to be 3, but I cut it down just a little bit, primarily because I want to really focus more on the Lieutenant Chilton, who's also an official, but I still want to keep some Cobbs in here. So I want to try to keep the deck more blue-based or more vigilance-based because of the Chilton. We'll get to him later. I'm sure most of you that are watching know what that is anyway. But Cobb Vanth, 3 cost, cunning, 3/2. When defeated, we get to search the top 10 cards of our deck for a unit that costs 2 or less and discard it. For this phase, you may play that card from your discard for free. So one key thing that you want to remember with this, and I know some people don't always remember it, and that's completely fine. That's what the reminder's for. If you pass your turn and somebody defeats this, you're not going to be able to play the card that you get with Cobb. So just be mindful of that when you're playing this. If you pass and then they kill it, you're not going to be able to get that unit to play. So one other interesting thing too is if that does happen, you can just not put something in your discard pile because it says search the top 10 cards of your deck for a unit that costs 2 or less and discard it. So for this phase, you may play that card from your discard for free. It doesn't say that you have to find something. So if you fail to find something, then so be it. One other card that I wanted to put in here was General Grievous because it's a 3 cost 4/4, but it's also an official. So we're finally getting a little use on here. You can completely ignore all the text on this because we're not going to use any of it. It's just a 3 cost 4/4, and it's an official. I decided to go with 3 copies of Nuke Gunray because I really like its ability, and I think it's pretty great. This is a 3 cost 3/4. If this was a 3/5, it'd be pretty perfect for this deck, but we'll take it for what it is. It's a 3/4 with grit. When played and on attack, you may give another friendly official unit Sentinel for this phase. Very good at giving random things Sentinel that you normally wouldn't have, like the Cobb Vanth, for example. It'd be great if we gave him Sentinel because we pretty much want him to die anyway so that we can get another unit for free. And I forgot to touch on that, but we've got all of this top row for Cobb Vanth. We've got our Corrupt Politicians, our Imperial Dark Trooper, Jar Jar, which is kind of neat with Cobb because if you've held back an attacker, you can get the Jar Jar because you get to play the Jar Jar for free with Cobb Vanth, so you would give something the +2 with that. You can also go get a Sentinel. We can get our 1 copy of Partagaz, so it's kind of cool. So Newt is where we were. 3 copies of Power of the Dark Side. I'm sure everybody knows this and is sick of it by now, but 3 cost event for Vigilance Villainy. An opponent chooses a unit they control, defeat that unit. I'm sure you all know that. at this point, but it's just nice early game removal. I've got 2 copies of Condemn in here. I really would like to get this up to 3. I think it's a great card, especially in a deck like this. So for 3 cost, it's Vigilance Villainy. This unit, the attached unit gains, while this attached unit is attacking. Let's clear it up here. It gains, quote, on attack, defending player may disclose Vigilance Villainy. If they do, this unit gets -6, -0 for this attack and loses all other abilities. So one key thing that I pointed out in a different video is that unit is always going to gain the part and the quotation marks there. It's gonna always gain when it attacks. The defending player can disclose, but the part after that, and loses all other abilities, it's going to automatically lose all abilities once it is an attacker. That's not conditional to the disclose. That is outside of the quotation marks. So that's still going to lose the abilities. So just something to keep in mind. I've got 4 copies of Lieutenant Childson, which I think is just still one of the best units in the game. 4 cost, Vigilance Villainy, 2/2, Sentinel. When played, we get to reveal up to 4 Vigilance cards from our hand. For each one revealed, we get to give this an experience token. And this is usually a 4 cost 6/6. Sometimes it's 4 cost 5/5, but it always has Sentinel, and it's always awesome. It's just very difficult to get through. This version of the deck, I made it kind of a slog where it's really tough for your opponent to get through all the defenses. We've got 2 copies of Masamita, 4 cost, Cunning Villainy, 3/4. When played, give an experience token to each of up to 2 other official units. Keyword there being other, so he can't give himself one. And he does have plot. And his counterpart here, Sly Moore, is a 4 cost Vigilance Villainy, 2/6. When played for this phase, each enemy unit gets -2, -0 while it's attacking your base. That also has plot. So I think this is a great card to kind of slow down aggro. You can play it. You can play another one the turn after if you really want. It's just going to make life a pain for your opponent. Our next 2 cards are almost exactly the same, except Cat is slightly better because it's got plot, but they do the same exact thing. Cat is a 5 cost Vigilance Villainy, 4/5. And when played, you may defeat a unit that has 2 or less remaining hit points. And the reason why this one is so good is because it has plot, meaning it's going to come out the same time our Palpatine comes out. And with a cost reduction, instead of being 5, this is only going to cost 2. We don't have that with the Devastating Gunship, even though it's just as good. This is a 5 cost Vigilance Villainy, 3/5 with Grit. And when played, we get to defeat an enemy unit with 2 or less remaining hit points. Devastating Gunship does have Grit, which is nice as well. So 2 similar effects. We get the cost reduction on Cad Bane, though, with the plot with this leader. Standard 3 copies of No Glory Only Results. 5 cost Vigilance Villainy. Take control of a non-leader unit, then defeat it. This is good for units that have clauses like the Lurking TIE Phantom, where they can't be, basically they can't have any effect from your opponent's cards. What this does is it allows us to take control of that unit and then defeat it, which gets around the Lurking TIE Phantom text, or the Chewbacca text, Chewbacca pilot that is. We've got 3 copies of Overwhelming Barrage because this card is still amazing and it's still in the format for now. 5 cost Cunning Villainy. Give this unit +2/+2 for this phase. When then it deals damage equal to its power divided as you choose among any number of other units. This card is just a little mini board wipe, and it's awesome. We've been playing it since set 1, and it's been awesome. And the replacement for that is up next. 2 copies of Craving Power. It's basically a fixed version of Overwhelming Barrage, I guess most people would say. 5 cost Cunning Villainy, +2/+2 upgrade. And when played, deal damage to an enemy unit equal to attached unit's power. So we put this on something like this Vader right here, it would have 7 power, and we get to deal 7 damage to something with that, which is pretty great. And we give our unit +2/+2. So Vader, I'm running 2 copies of it for 2 reasons. One, we've got a larger deck size, so I don't want to go too crazy with this. And I don't really have a lot of ways to go and give this vigilance other than these 2 timely interventions that we spoke about before. So I'm going just with 2 copies of this. It is a 6-cost Vigilance Villainy, 5/6. When played, give a shield token to a friendly unit and to an enemy unit. And on attack, when an enemy defeat an enemy unit with a shield token on it, it's bonkers with ambush, and it's just okay without it. So we're running 2 copies and 2 copies of Timely Intervention. We've got 1 copy of Palpatine's Return in here, a 6-cost Cunning Villainy, and it lets us play a unit from our discard pile that costs 6 or less. If it's a Force unit, it costs 8 less. Going back to some of our plot cards, we've got 2 copies of First Light, 7-cost Cunning Villainy, 5/7 Ambush with Plot. When this unit attacks and defeats a unit, you may draw a card. We've also got 2 copies of Reinforcement Walker, which is an 8-cost 6/9. Nice. When played and on attack, look at the top card of your deck. Either draw that card or discard it and heal 3 damage from your base. Either option is awesome. If we do happen to timely this out, it's just double the effect. You either get to draw 2 cards or heal up to 6 damage or do 1 of each. Pretty great card. And our last main deck card, we've got 2 copies of Super Laser Blast. 8-cost Vigilance Villainy. I'm sure everybody's sick of this. Defeat all units. Plain and simple. Sideboard. I've got 1 copy of Restock, where it'll allow us to choose up to 4 cards from our discard pile and then put them on the bottom of its owner's deck in a random order. It's a solid matchup in case we run into somebody that's trying to run us out of cards in the main deck. 2 copies of Seasoned Fleet Admiral, 2-cost Cunning, and it's a 1/4 with raid 1, and when an opponent draws 1 or more cards during their action phase, you may give an experience token to a unit. Doesn't have to be this one, but it probably will be, depending on when you play it. It's just kind of nice for decks that draw, something like a Dead Draw or Cassian's starting to come back from set 1. Not that that's a huge deal, but anything that you happen to notice that has card drawing in it. So against control, we've got 2 copies of Trade Route Taxation, 2-cost Cunning with Plot. Choose an opponent. If you control more units than an opponent, they can't play events this phase. If we're playing against a control deck, most likely we're going to have more units than they will. And we're really more of a soft control with units. We've got a lot of units in this, so there's a good chance that we could have more units than an opposing player. Plus, we've got all that removal in the deck. We've got 2 copies of Eager Escort Fighter for the space decks, 3-cost Cunning, 4/1 with Ambush, just a good way to get rid of something problematic in space. Speaking of space, 1 copy of Hyperspace Disaster, 7-cost, and Vigilance, defeat all space units. I don't know if I mentioned this, but 2 copies of the Eager Escort Fighter. We've got our last copy of Super Laser Blast in the sideboard. We've already discussed the card. And 1 copy of Supreme Leader Snoke, 8-cost Vigilance Villainy, 6/6. Each enemy non-leader unit gets -2/-2. So that is the deck, and I've been having fun with it. It's pretty good. It just took a couple games to get used to it, but I really like the list. And if you prefer more of a unit-based control deck, a soft control deck, I think that you'll like this one. So I just wanted to mention it to you here and see what you think. By all means, please feel free to leave some comments below on things that you like about the deck or things that you would change. If you play the list, tell me your experience with it. Definitely would love to know how it's doing for you. And otherwise, yeah, that's it. I just want to remind you, if you can, please like and subscribe on the video if possible. Definitely helps me out quite a bit. And I just want to say, may the Force be with you, my friends. I hope you are well. Take care.